Hi, I'm Bob Murray, Vice President of Economic Affairs for McGraw-Hill Construction. Right now, the construction industry appears to be in an extended process of turning the corner. The steep declines of 2008 and 2009 have come to an end, but the overall level of construction starts continues to hover within a set range, meaning up only 1% in 2010, essentially unchanged in 2011, and now 2012 is shaping up to be more of the same. That being, gains for a few project types are being offset by declines for other project types. Last fall, we forecast that the level of construction starts would be basically flat. The revised forecast in our mid-year update now has total construction starts rising by a modest 2%, a slightly better performance than what we had predicted last fall, but not by much. The major changes for 2012 are a stronger forecast for single-family housing, which has shown small yet steady gains over the past year, but a weaker performance by the institutional building sector, notably educational buildings and healthcare facilities. The backdrop continues to be a fragile U.S. economy. Real GDP in the first quarter of this year was up only 1.9%, and the pattern for job growth has been particularly disappointing. During the first quarter of 2012, payroll employment grew by an average of 226,000 jobs per month. Some of this strength could be attributed to the warm winter weather in many parts of the country, so some deceleration was expected going into the spring. The slowdown, however, turned out to be more severe than expected, with April up by only 68,000 jobs, May up by 77,000 jobs, and June up by 80,000 jobs, bringing the average for this three-month period to job growth of only 75,000 jobs. As a result, the economy seems to be slowing once again. The major negatives are the uncertainty stemming from the ongoing European debt crisis, which has caused banks to maintain a cautious stance towards lending, and the fiscal constraints at the federal and state levels of government. There are also several positives to point to. Interest rates continue to be very low, energy prices have receded from where they were in early spring, and Congress was able to pass a 2-year, $105 billion transportation bill. This legislation calls for federal funding for highways and bridges to remain at current levels through the end of this fiscal year, which ends on September 30th, and hold at that level over the next 2 fiscal years, ending on September 30th, 2014. Now, here are some of the highlights of our mid-year update for construction starts. Single-family housing is now forecast to rise 21% in dollars, corresponding to a 19% increase in dwelling units. This still leaves the volume of activity at only 490,000 units, which is a very low amount and less than half the 1 million to 1.2 million units potential for this market, which is suggested by demographics. While the number of foreclosed homes remains high, recent evidence suggests that the vacant homes are clustered in less desirable neighborhoods, and home buyer demand is increasing in locations with few vacancies. Mortgage rates continue to be very low, and new home sales are beginning to edge upward ever so slightly. The double-digit gain for single-family housing is being joined this year by the continued upward trend for multifamily housing. Multifamily housing in dollar terms is projected to be up 19% this year, corresponding to an 18% increase in dwelling units. The demand for multifamily housing has been helped as potential home buyers have been inclined to defer purchases of single-family homes due to more restrictive bank lending practices and the uncertain employment market. The result is that vacancy rates for multifamily housing have been receding while rents have been going up, which makes it easier to justify new construction. Commercial building in 2012 is forecast to grow 10%, following the 12% gain in 2011. Like last year, warehouses and hotels will continue to see the largest increases, while store construction will be able to contribute with a 13% gain of its own. The picture is more mixed, though, for office construction, which has seen a few more corporate office projects this year, as well as data centers, but fewer government office buildings, leaving overall activity for this structure type basically flat. The institutional building market in 2012 is now forecast to be down 10%, following the 11% decline that was reported in 2011. The tough fiscal climate at the state and local level is taking its toll on the educational building category, down 11% in dollar terms. Particularly hard hit is the K through 12 segment for educational building, while colleges and universities are faring a bit better, helped by the improved financial position of college endowments. Healthcare facilities in 2012 are forecast to be down a similar 10%, adversely affected by the uncertainty facing this sector, as well as by the increased volume of hospital mergers over the past year. The manufacturing building category in 2012 will retreat 20%, following a substantial 75% increase in 2011, which reflected the start of a $3 billion coal-to-gasoline plant in West Virginia, as well as 2 large semiconductor plants, one in Oregon and the other in Arizona. But this year, with the sagging U.S. economy, capacity utilization rates for manufacturing have also begun to pull back as well, and as a result of that, construction is retreating this year. Public works construction in 2012 is forecast to be down 6%, following the 14% slide that was reported in 2011. Federal appropriations for such programs as the Federal Aid Highway Program and the state revolving funds for environmental work were reduced in 2012, while state and local governments continue to deal with tight fiscal conditions. Highways, bridges, and environmental work have all weakened so far in 2012, but one relative bright spot has been an increase in mass transit work, which has reflected the start of several major projects around the nation. Another positive for public works, of course, is the June passage of the 2-year transportation bill, which should help cushion the decline for highways and bridges that is currently underway at the present time. Electric utility construction in 2012 is forecast to at least match its exceptional amount reported for 2011, and it's being helped this year by the start of 2 massive nuclear reactor projects at facilities in Georgia and South Carolina. Solar and wind projects have remained strong so far during the early months of 2012, but are likely to lose some momentum compared to last year's brisk pace. Adding the sectors together produces a 2% gain for total construction, which again is not much different from the 1% gain in 2010 and the flat activity in 2011. This reflects, again, a mix of pluses and minuses by structure type. Going forward, the backdrop in the very near term will continue to be the lackluster U.S. economy. Hopefully, those construction sectors which have shown some growth this year will be able to hold on to their gains, while the weaker construction sectors will see their declines grow less severe, although such a development may have to wait until 2013.